Sergei, we're going to talk about the mixed-use complex called Esch Zuidkreuz in Berlin.
South Cross, in English, South Cross.
South Cross. And if you could talk a little bit about the location of the project, the extent of the project, so the site, the program, and what are some of the main elements and components of this project?
Good, thank you. I was active with this project since, I think, 7 years, maybe even more. And the year before last, 22, it was ready. And for now, it is still the largest timber hybrid construction in Germany, and one of large in Europe, in Middle Europe, let's say. Because we know that in Scandinavian, there are a lot of projects made by timber, but in the countries like Germany, it is still very new way. And we had to fight also, in best sense of this word, fight with some laws to make it possible. So in this case, it is, of course, pioneer building. And it is quite big because it consists from two different parts. A smaller one, like 12,000 square meters of GFA, and 18,000 of GFA by the bigger building. So together we have more or less 30,000 square meters. It's a big complex. The outline of the complex was exactly pointed by the building plan. That is a very important part of the building law in Germany. So in the outline of the building, it was not a lot to do. So we got, of course, new facade, and we got all construction reasons, but we couldn't make like another angles or another size of the building. The size was made by this ground law, by this building plan. So far, the most important question for the beginning for client and me, and this building was a result of very good relationship between client and me on the way to create very sustainable buildings, because the client Esch is very, very famous for its sustainability projects. And they made in Netherlands wonderful buildings with Koolhaas, with MVRDV, and with other international offices. And here in Berlin, it was, I think, the second one they made. And they wanted to make with us, really like sustainable light tower for German development market. The question to make it in timber, or mostly in timber hybrid. So this construction principle, less is 1 year. So we spare really 2.5 times the construction time. And altogether, it is not only timber hybrid building because we wanted to make it timber hybrid, or we made it timber because we liked timber. Of course, we like timber and we like atmosphere of timber, but the most important idea is not timber. The most important idea is a light building. We reduced the heaviness, the weight of the building by around about 40%. So our fundament plate is only 60% of normal fundament plate. The heaviness, the weight of the building is round about 60% of comparable normal office building. What makes this? You use 40% less energy, so you go with less 40% carbon outside. So you make it 40% more sustainable as normal building. What is enormous? To make it as a light building, it's not only important to make it by timber. It is also very important to use any material on the right place. For example, you see by us in our images, steel staircases. You ask, why steel? Why you don't make it by timber? Because if you would make it by timber, it would be double so heavy as by steel. And we wanted to make light building and less load-bearing power to downstairs to fundament. In this case, we use steel where we need steel. We use concrete with 10 centimeters over wooden timber beams to make timber hybrid elements prefabricated. We use round beam connected every floor because we are in Germany not allowed to make only timber over 7 floors. We have to cut the fire protection one floor from other. So we need some layer of fire protected material from floor to floor. And of course, also the atrium, what is the heart of the building, because as I told, outside, they had not much to do with the form. We had to get this form out to make also the economical reasons possible. And I wanted to make this heart of the building, this main and central point of the building, like a central point of communication, but also somehow a manifest to see that is a building where the light materials, especially wood, but also other materials, are speaking and playing enormous role. You go over the staircase between wooden trees, what are not really only wood. You have steel tube inside, and over them is wooden construction. What is also very important for acoustic, because you have these ribs, and the ribs are very good to make acoustic positive. You come in the building and you see now, as I come with the people, how the connection between levels, how the connection between people on different floors is going. And that is really the animation, not to make different floors separated from each other, but to make them working together, to make them mixing together. You come over the staircase to the loggia, you can come out to the very wide balcony, then you can go to the presentation area where all team presents the new projects. So it is, of course, ideal for single tenant, but to be frankly, it is also very good for multi-tenant, because we now in Germany make the experience that you need for work life like a 10% of all spaces to make them as music rooms, as a sporting rooms, as a gaming rooms, to give to the people the possibility to exchange, to meet each other, to discuss, to be informal, because otherwise we cannot stay through the concurrence to home. After COVID, everybody says how long I'm allowed to be home. And we say, normally you are not allowed, or you're less allowed. But then say, and what is the value of my working place? I come and sit on my table and that's it? No. You can go to the rooms, you can go to the spaces, you can connect each other, you can meet each other, you can meet different interesting people, you can walk over the building and would come on new ideas. That is very attractive for the people, even it would be multi-tenant building.
So the main function of this atrium is that it's really working as
a restaurant, canteen. It is a meeting point on every tree on the different levels, and that also communication between floors, because over the bridges and staircases you can get every core of every floor.
And it provides alternative spaces for people to
work, for conferences, for informal discussions. What do you like?
And let me ask you, so what was the main inspiration for this space? I understand that one of the metaphors for it is the forest, right? How did you come up with that?
To be frankly, I didn't have like symbols I wanted to build from this symbol up. I made sketches, and just I got this atrium, I understood that the atrium is the most important idea in this house, because also you must understand, outside, if you plan a really sustainable house, the skin of the house should be very modest, because if your skin is very elaborated, then you have you lose a lot of warm or cold energy, a lot of energy through the increasing of surface. And you shouldn't increase the surface, because the surface is a border between cold and warm. So this border is our clothing, should be quite modest. But inside of the building, you have not this problem to connect cold warm. You are already in the warm space. You are covered by the roof. You have the walls, you have the entrance, so you are not bordered to the cold outside. That's why you can be much more elaborated. You can much more extensive, much more sculptural, let's say, without to leave sustainable aspect. Then, if you go into the atrium, it should be some wow effect you live through. And then I sketched, and I show in the exhibition the sketches, what I made from one idea to the other idea to the third idea. I like dreamed by sketching, and that was the idea with because what is the aim? I need spaces on the different levels where everybody meet each other. If I have only column or only staircase, I have just the place for the staircase. It's like 2 to 2 meters. It's not enough. So I need more space. If I need more space, I need the wider space upstairs. So I get not so much footprint downstairs, because I need the space downstairs. I have to move. But upstairs, I need the second level of the same space. So automatically, I go wider, so high I am. And you create with these platforms, like 2/3 part, or 2/4 part of what we have downstairs. And if we have downstairs canteen as a restaurant with a kitchen nearby, so you go through the staircase upstairs, and then on the different levels, you have a possibility to create a space for informal discussions. You continue maybe what you discussed already downstairs, or you go from your office, go to the office 1 floor lower, and meet the people are going to you or not to you, and you meet, you speak, and you turn while you go. It's very sportive to go upstairs with the staircase, not with the elevator. I think it's very important also, but to make fun to go with staircase, not just in this closed space, in emergency staircase that you go very, very elaborated in the space. And you have very good acoustics there. It is really like a big guest room, like a big living room of this huge office space.
And you already started describing the roof. So what's the main design idea for
light, acoustic, as a very clever, smart sun protection, because the sun protection can be regulated. We have the roof with 3 layers. We have the air pumping inside of these layers, so you can regulate how the middle layer goes high or down. And then your sun protection could be more or less densy. So depending from the conditioning outside, the regulation is clever enough to support them to make sun protection lower or higher. And we have very, very thin, very elegant beams, only 45 centimeters high, and we have very good function supporting by the steel tubes. So together, this very light roof, only 45 kilos per square meter, is very good protecting against wind, for example, because it has to protect against 100 kilo per square meter of wind, and it protects.
And it has the ETFE roof.
It is a TFE plastic, yes. It is not glass. That's why it is very good for acoustic, and these sun protection reasons are involved in the construction of ETFE. That's plastic. Construction, but it can be very long, because it is connected between each other without supporting. So you can make really long elements.
When you discuss your work, you often use such words and phrases as materiality, urban mise-en-scène, settings, the importance of juxtaposing historical and contemporary buildings, and you talk a lot about the role of the city and how different buildings relate to each other and to the overall context. If you could talk about your approach to architecture and what kind of architecture do you try to achieve?
Yeah, that's all true what you say. Also for me as architecture, I mean, we have now, of course, three main columns we are in Europe, in any case, speaking a lot about. We're speaking, of course, about very, very big amount of buildings are staying after the war, and we have to do something with them. We haven't to demolish them. It's now a very important problem, what could be positive worked with. So we have enormous amount, for example, even after the joining East and West Germany. It was built in 90s, a lot of buildings. Now the tenant agreements are going out. So like 30 years are over. So what happens? The building are there and the main tenant moving in the other building. What would you do with the old one? Demolishing is not the answer. So the one important question, reuse, what to make with this old substance, what makes the face of our towns. The second point, what we explained all time with this building of Esch, it is a point of sustainability. So how to build new buildings so that they can be reused simpler, that can be removed simpler, they can be partly recycled simpler. So we have to learn from the experience, also negative experience of the last 50 years, let's say, to make it on the other way, not to create more and more substance what could not be reused on the best way. And the third part, what we also discussed before the interview, is the integration, social integration, because we will be in all countries more and more international, with different religions, with different views, how the community has to live. And in this case, this integration of different opinions, integration of controversial opinions and ways of life, it is very, very important and very new, I would say, aim of our towns. And there is a point what could be like a milestone before we discuss about styles and old and new and anything else. But if we leave these three positions what are the ground of every discussion today, because if we don't follow to these three ground stones, then any discussion about materiality, if for materiality you demolished huge building, so it is no materiality can make right this position, no quality, because if we demolish all we have and build every time new, someday we have so much damage for our surroundings that we cannot use the surrounding anymore. So we have to rethink our thinking completely. And but if this ground is there, after that, important for me to make like a mise-en-scène, like stages, where I think the urban and material experience with the buildings could be every time significant and different. And in this case is, of course, a neighborhood, contrastful neighborhood between old and new. Creation of spaces are very significant in itself, also in combining between old and new. Is of course for me very interesting samples every time. But I repeat, only if this ground could be saved. Because if you say I make now huge colonnade, but for this colonnade I demolish half a district, so it is not a way anymore. Even if it was a way for 20 years or for 15 years, today it's not a way anymore. Today we have new material, new marble to create the sculpture. This marble consisting not from only new, but from what you get on the place. And from this you get on the place, you have to make new imagination of town planning stage, let's say. Where materiality, where combining old and new, where town planning stages are playing a big role, but only after the three big points are already existing.
And finally, I want to ask you about the role of your drawings, and I see many beautiful drawings right behind you.
Yeah, it's not originals, but still in my cabinet we have some drawings, some copies were exhibited also, and they were bringing after that on the wall.
And so you said, I came into architecture through drawing, and this is how I think. My architecture arises from my drawings. Drawings are the key to understanding architecture. If you could talk about how drawings influence your architecture.
Yeah, in that case, that my architecture, I develop not every time or not even often very analytic, but by the drawing. I say, okay, there are important questions I have to develop in my building. So I go, of course, in the direction I thought analytic before. But after that, I go with the hand and dream a little bit over the drawing, and suddenly I say, okay, if it could be like this on this page, then it could be maybe interesting. And that is how drawing makes the architecture. In one case, you continue with the hand your mind, because your body is a part of your soul. So you think not only with your head, with your mind, but you think with all body, and that is a drawing. It's an expression not only with the mind, but the mind going through the lighting of body, lighting of hand. I say you could do it. It's not must, but it makes me a lot of fun. And after I understand analytical, what I like to place in my architecture as the main points, what I explained before that, then I give to the hands like a free running and look what happens.
Yeah, but what is also different what makes you different is that you also draw a lot of historical architecture, and when you draw, you pay a lot closer attention to details.
I analyze what kind of architecture I like to draw, because if we speak about architecture, Instagrammable architecture or photographicable architecture, so architecture what you like to photograph, I would say it is very important drawable architecture, like an Instagrammable architecture, drawable architecture. For me to draw not only historical but also contemporary architecture is a big study. Many people are saying we don't like to draw contemporary architecture because it's so complicated, and contemporary architecture has no details. Contemporary architecture has less details what you can draw. But I would say it is maybe more difficult, but it's so far more interesting. This is what we build now, how we clothe us now, how we wear different clothings. They're completely else as we had it for 100 years. We look different, we speak different, we have different taste. We have white shoes with a dark trousers. So is it good? I don't know, but we wear it today, you know. And that's why contemporary architecture is like also white shoes with a dark trousers of past. It's like this.
Thank you. Thank you.